So Tim Haines, Managing Partner Director of Abingworth, great investor in the UK, done a huge amount in life sciences. We're very grateful you're here. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Lord KK. It's a great pleasure to be here. I promise as a good card-carrying venture capitalist, I will talk about the money. But before I do that, I'd like to spend a few minutes in trying to square the circle around revolutionizing patient pathways, which is the theme we're trying to cover today. And yet we've got more than 10% of the UK population is on a waiting list for treatments of some variety. And I think there is a real opportunity to resolve both those tensions, if you like. Obviously, money is a key part of it. But if you look at the waiting list and you think about the impact of treating those patients, not only is there a short-term health impact, but I think what we're increasingly realizing is that if you can diagnose and treat patients early, you can have an absolutely profound impact on their longer-term outcomes. Most cancers today, if you can diagnose and treat when they are localized, we have cures for about 98% of those patients. When they're metastasized, the survival rates and morbidities associated with them absolutely plummet. So I think it's incumbent upon us to think really hard about how can we pull forward the diagnosis and indeed the prevention at many levels and get treatment early. Because not only does it have a profound impact on survivability, but clearly the pharmacoeconomic impact of early treatment is also absolutely significant as well. So I think with that in mind, we as a firm are looking very hard at this early intervention, early diagnosis, and indeed starting to look increasingly at prevention, which I think has to become an important part of really improving patient pathways. And I'm pleased to say I think the UK has many of the ingredients that are fundamental to successfully innovating in this space. I think we've got fantastic technology. I think our data science is incredibly strong. And we have these really deep pools of data, UK Biobank, Genomics England, etc., that we've not yet harnessed. And we also have, I think, the level of competence in the UK that can really pull all these things together to, I think, make some significant changes on patient outcomes and the overall economics of how we look to treat disease. Patrick talked about high-throughput genomic sequencing, and it's worth reminding ourselves that actually this was a Cambridge, UK invention through Solexa that did end up in the UK, and I'll come back to companies moving and why they don't stay here for longer shortly. But it's worth just reflecting on the whole high-throughput genomic sequencing impact and how it really has affected this diagnosis treatment paradigm. When SARS-CoV-2 came along, if it had come along 20 years ago, it would have probably taken us 2 years to solve the genomic sequence of it and therefore to develop treatments. It was done in about a week thanks to high-throughput genomic sequencing. The impact on cancer treatment has been profound. We are now looking exquisitely at the mutations, very precise mutations that are driving the cancers because we can do this genomic analysis. My old company, Aztecs in Cambridge, which continues to thrive, I'm pleased to say, has 3 blockbuster drugs based on the knowledge of the exquisite mutation in the individual. And it's becoming much more like personalized medicines, whereby the drug only hits the disease-mutated protein, does not hit the wild type. And of course, as well as Patrick alluded to, the ability to analyze neonates based on their genomic sequencing to develop to analyze inherited diseases is absolutely profound. And we have this technology that many of you will be aware of called CRISPR, which is the ability to come in and intervene and manipulate DNA. Early days, but I think it will have a profound impact. But again, it's about picking up and identifying these diseases very early on, treating them early, and actually mitigating the downstream health impact and economic impact of this. And again, it's a space that we continue to lead in, really, with the Wellcome Trust Genomics Centre, Genomics England, which is really looking at, we've got a 100,000 genome project. They're looking at a deep neonatal analysis. So I think a great example of a very profound, game-changing technology that has a dramatic impact, but particularly in this diagnosis, precision medicine space. I guess the question is then, well, where to next? What are some of the things that we see on the horizon? And I have to say, one of the areas we're thinking really hard about is the immune system. The immune system is involved in pretty much every single disease we have. The immune system protects us when we're younger from cancer. Doesn't work quite as well when we get older. It clearly protects us from infection, viral diseases. It unfortunately can behave aberrantly in some situations where it actually causes diseases, autoimmunity. But we think this could be the next generation sequencing as applied to immunophenotyping. We think this can become a very important part of early diagnosis and indeed as part of really wellness as well. What is a robust immune system given the importance that we believe the immune system has? And again, if you think about it, the last 10 years, drugs called checkpoint inhibitors for cancer are in essence blocking the signals that the cancer mutations give to tell the individual's immune system not to attack it. The checkpoint inhibitors are knocking off those signals, and we're now really using the immune system as a drug against cancer. It only works in 25% of patients, but it really is something very profound, and again, if it's done early, has a dramatic impact. And I'm pleased, I think I'm the first one to talk about GLP agonists this morning, so I'll certainly get a tick from that. But I think any healthcare discussion that doesn't talk about Ozempic or Wegovy is not touching on some of the key themes. And clearly, we all have been following this kind of revolution in a pharmaceutical product, and it has an impact on weight loss, type 2 diabetes, but it also has a pleiotropic effect on other diseases that is almost certainly through the immune system. It impacts the immune system to reduce inflammation, have a broad impact. But it's worth just as a slight sidebar to think about how pharmaceuticals can have these really radical impacts. We spend about 10% of health spend on pharmaceuticals, but if we could develop drugs that have the potential for these GLP-1 agonists, actually the healthcare impacts can be profound, more preventative. Not cheap at the moment, but we should remember 10 plus years' time, there'll probably be generic drugs. They won't cost too much. And if it continues the efficacy impact on a whole variety of disease, kidney disease, sleep apnea, heart disease, both through this direct weight loss, but also through this pleiotropic anti-inflammatory effect, I think it will have a very profound impact on healthcare. So I think a little bit of a tick in the box for the pharma industry. But coming back to this prevention and opportunities in the UK, where we're kind of harnessing technology, digital competence, and access to these data pools. I'm chair of a company called IMU Biosciences, which is a spin-out from King's College, which is pull together all those three ingredients. And basically what they're able to do, they've built what they define as a high-throughput immunophenotyping platform. And it's the ability from a couple of milliliters of blood to analyze over 2,500 different immune cells for an individual, which gives them about 40 million data points. And they're then applying machine learning AI to really build up a picture of an individual's immune system, which is really incredibly profound and valuable, particularly when it's applied to a variety of disease data sets. And they've applied it to things like organ transplant rejection. And sure enough, the immune system, as soon as the body starts to reject the solid organ, immediately changes. You can see a signal. You can also understand from the signal why it is rejecting, why the body is rejecting the organ, or indeed the organ is rejecting the body. Stem cell transplantation is another area, the ability to where people with leukemias, where they have to have their immune system in essence completely replaced, selecting the right donors based on the composition of their immune system is fundamental. And now they're moving into working with the CRIC through the Manifest Consortium, which is looking at about 4,000 patients receiving either vaccines, oncology vaccines, or checkpoint inhibitors, to look at what's happening to the immune system, to try and understand why only about 25% of the patients respond. And I'm pleased to say they're also in the process of hopefully getting access to the UK Biobank data that is absolutely an incredible, a national treasure, I think, really nothing similar globally. 500 patients now, 15 plus years out. And again, the ability to track the immune systems of all those individuals over that 15 years and see what the changes look like when they go from quiescence to perturbation and its correlation with the disease, I think is really profound. So I think lots of reasons. It's one example, but I think hopefully gives you a flavour for the areas that I think the UK can and does really excel in. I think touching on in the next 5 minutes on the money side of things, as Michael touched on earlier today, the UK punches way above its weight in terms of venture capital and life sciences. We're the largest biotech hub in Europe. We attracted about 40% of the capital in Europe last year. Second largest life sciences hub after Boston in the US. And we're investing a couple of £1 billion per year. I think one of the challenges, and we've invested in 4 UK companies in the last 12 months, so we're seeing great opportunities. One of the biggest challenges we have is really how do you scale up these companies such that we have the next GSK or AstraZeneca? And I think the point was made, many of our companies do get acquired or we move them to the US. And a lot of that is not necessarily about early stage venture capital. It's very much about the scale-up piece. And I think there are, we don't have public markets as compared to the NASDAQ that are really supportive for building these kind of next generation product champions. We also have a reticence to invest in riskier assets. We've raised over $2 billion in the last 4 years. We have one UK investor that is British Patient Capital. And we heard Lord Keikar talked a little bit about the Mansion House Compact. We've got something like £3 trillion of pension monies, of which about 2% goes into equities. So it's heavily skewed towards bonds. So if we can free up that, and there are plans for the Mansion House to try and free up about 5% of the defined contributions, which is about £1 trillion. So that would be a significant quantum of capital. We're investing about $2 billion a year in life sciences. Clearly, if you were able to get 5% of $1 trillion, $50 billion, $1 or $2 more billion would have a massive impact. So I think those are some of the fundamental pieces to really try and build next generation world leaders. We have all the other elements. We're brilliant at the invention. We're not bad in innovation, but I think we do need this scalable capital to at least move these companies further downstream and really continue to build the infrastructure. I remain fantastically optimistic. We as a firm have been fortunate enough in the last 10 years not only to make good returns for our investors, but to actually get 34 drugs approved by FDA, which are really important, so, many of which have come out of the UK. So I think we have a really good ecosystem. We mustn't ignore the fact that many other countries are trying to catch up pretty quickly. So I do think if we can continue to join the dots, fantastic data, amazing universities, great hospitals. We're now getting a lot more life sciences space here. Clearly Blackstone's playing a part of it. We've now got Canary Wharf's putting up 1 million square foot of life sciences space. So hopefully that piece is going to go away, and I think we will see the London life sciences community really echo what we've seen in Cambridge and Oxford, potentially outgrow it. We really do have some capabilities here. So I remain fantastically optimistic, but lots to be done.
Thank you very much.
The Harley Street Health District, the home of healthcare since 1860.